Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, you know, when this motion first came to this House, the people of Nyandarua had sent a very serious man to this House, Engineer Murugi Karue. I don't want to say more than that, but Mr. Speaker, of their choices they have made since then. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, sorry, I rise to support this very important motion. One of the very insightful decisions that the Senate has made over the years in the course of our duty as representatives of counties and their county governments and their interest, the decision to bequeath the people of Isiolo, Lamu, Nyandarua, and the two other, Tana River and Tharaka Nithi, with county headquarters, Mr. Speaker, was a wise decision by this House. It was made after a very deep, heated debate. I was a member of Budget and Finance Committee, Madam Speaker, at that time, and it was extremely difficult to convince the 47 delegations of this House why out of the shareable revenue to county governments that we set aside some funds for 5 counties only. In fact, I remember that afternoon very well, the same way Senator Boni Halwale is speaking to, that many speakers argued and insisted and said, this is a dangerous precedent that we are saying, that we are setting, because how will we justify to the people that we represent in this House that besides setting aside funds for our own use as a people, we have agreed to set out 600+ million to 5 counties to build their county headquarters. I'm glad that wisdom prevailed that afternoon. And since then, Mr. Speaker, these counties have gone on to put on headquarters. It is unfortunate, though, Madam Speaker, that years later, we are here back with a report and we are yet to reap the fruits of that particular decision. Unknown to many, Madam Speaker, this decision was quite Solomonic. And in fact, this was the first conditional grant. It is after this decision that subsequently the Senate now introduced the concept of conditional grants that we have now since had on many other projects and the things that are being done. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I go on to the first point that I wish to point out on this particular debate. And it's good because Senator Robert, the chairperson of this committee, is in the House and is listening. I wish that we could get a similar report of projects that have been carried out under subsequent conditional grants, county-specific, on what has been done, Madam Speaker. Because, you know, just the same way, 8 years down the line, we are here discussing county headquarters and the fact that billions of money has gone on to build these headquarters, but the people of these 5 counties have never enjoyed those services, Madam Speaker. We need to make a firm decision whether this concept, as we thought of at that particular time, works or it doesn't. Because it's unfortunate, Madam Speaker, if we have poured out billions of taxpayers' money, yet the citizens from these counties up to today cannot enjoy the services from those particular resources. How much more on other conditional grants, on health, the FLOCA funds, and this and that, Madam Speaker. Many funds that we continue to pass in this House, Madam Speaker, because ultimately, Madam Speaker, public resources are not any different from our own resources. It is your wish as an individual, every time you put out money to do a particular project, that you enjoy services from that particular project, whether it is building a house, setting up a business, buying an asset, Madam Speaker, you want to enjoy that which you are paid for. And it is unfortunate that as you sit here today, Madam Speaker, we are discussing something that 8 years down the line, the citizens of these 5 counties have not enjoyed their investment, because it is their money, they are taxpayers, they are Kenyan citizens. And the same replete stories are all over on conditional grants. Therefore, I want to demand from Senator Roba and the committee that he leads that we have a special audit of funds under conditional grant as well, so that we make a firm decision and agree whether it is sustainable to keep it in that particular model, or we leave all funds to specific counties so that you go sit down by whatever means that you want and determine how you want to use those particular funds, Madam Speaker. I am sure that if the people of these 5 counties had been left to their own devices and they decided on how to fund these particular counties, perhaps county headquarters, perhaps within their budget cycles, because this is almost 8 years of 8 financial years, I don't think that the county governments, the 5 county governments, will not have completed the headquarters. But because they knew they were waiting for a conditional grant that is passed in every financial year, each budget, I think even this year, in the CARA that we passed, there's an allocation of 400 million, Madam Speaker, they would have completed this. That is part of what is contributing to public wastage. And this habit, Madam Speaker, unfortunately, is something that we picked up from the national government. There are buildings all over this town, which if you pass, Madam Speaker, Kenyan citizens are paid billions of shillings. But as we speak today, one of the biggest charge to the exchequer, Madam Speaker, by the various state departments and ministries, just like these county governments, is a hiring of offices. All these new buildings that you see coming up all over Upper Hill, it is not private sector that are occupying. 90% of floors are taken by different state departments, Madam Speaker. Yet there are empty buildings that government has built. If you go down this road, Madam Speaker, on Bunyala Road, there is a building that has been an ISO for close to, I think, 20 years, for as long as I can remember being an adult in this city, Madam Speaker. I think it's by Kirdi or something. Very big building. 20, 30 years of building that particular building. That building that can house thousands of government employees, Madam Speaker, and save on funds. These funds that are now causing us to lose lives and destabilizing our countries because of the scarcity of resources, Madam Speaker, is on account of wastage of public funds. This is one such example, Madam Speaker. And so many others that will be struggling. Therefore, it is my sincere hope, Madam Speaker, that beyond the call of this report, Madam Speaker, to note the various stages and the same, I hope that we can have other far-reaching decisions, Madam Speaker. I wish even the committee was moving us, Madam Speaker, to complete a special audit on this building, know how much is left, and put a byline, Madam Speaker, so that we say, for the sake of stopping the wastage of public resources, in the next allocation, just grant this county X amount of money, they complete on this building, and we forget about it, Madam Speaker. Because what we have done here is barely scratching the surface, just pointing out to the challenges that exist. It is my hope, Madam Speaker, that even as we interact and as we do the kind of reports that we have done, much as what the Committee of Budget and Finance have done is commendable, Madam Speaker, I wish they had gone for the kill, so that we solve this problem for once and for all. And then secondly, and most importantly, go to the other conditional grants that we continue to have, Madam Speaker. Funds that we devolve, send to the various counties, but if you go, and I want to challenge colleague senators that are here this afternoon, just go to your county and check the various conditional funds that we send, whether it is the FLOCA funds or Kenya Urban Support Program, these specific special funds that we send to our counties, how many of them have got complete, well-done projects that you can be proud about, Madam Speaker? Many of these funds, Madam Speaker, they end up being wasted, especially because auditing of these specific funds, Madam Speaker, is under a different purview, separate from the annual audit reports that we receive. And I want to challenge colleague senators that the next time you visit your county assemblies, Madam Speaker, demand of our members of county assembly to carry out even special audits on these particular funds, Madam Speaker, and see, grant your report or present a report before the citizens of your county on how much of the various conditional grants have been received and what projects have been done to completion. Because it is one thing to commence a project, it is another thing altogether for citizens to derive value from that project once it is completed. The challenge that we have in this country, and what we are being challenged about, Madam Speaker, is the fact that the minute people have procured a project and they have secured the 10% that comes from it or whatever cut the procuring officers receive from that particular project, nobody has an interest after that, Mr. Speaker, to see what happens with that particular project. They quickly move on to the next project. That is the report that we are reading this afternoon about these particular programs. Perhaps even the motivation in some of these county governments, Madam Speaker, is because people know that the contractor was signed up by a governor who has since retired. So they're asking, what is the motivation anyway? Why would I engage this particular person? It's unfortunate. We need to make a decision as a country, suspending the introduction of new projects until, first of all, Madam Speaker, you complete You know, and many times we speak about this and people don't appreciate or understand that there is little difference in terms of deriving value out of public projects from what you do privately. If today, Madam Speaker, of the resources that you administer at a personal level, you have projects littered all over parts of the country where you have interest, Madam Speaker, and none of which is complete, are you a prudent administrator of your own resources? I thought common wisdom dictates, Madam Speaker, that you first complete one project or the other, Madam Speaker, enjoy the benefits from that particular project before commencing any other. That is what sensible people do. Madam Speaker, we are being challenged as a country to raise the heads of accountability. And this is the opportunity that has come out of the challenges that we are facing through as a nation right now. And we will be fools who have learned nothing out of this crisis, Madam Speaker, if we don't point out and agree actually to the wisdom that is being called upon for us to rise up and demand that we must put to better use any funds collected from citizens. The same things that you cannot do with your own resources, Madam Speaker, don't accept to do it with public funds, Madam Speaker. We must raise the standards of accountability for people to declare publicly and let it be known, Madam Speaker, that despite the fact that they have no specific interest on a project because maybe it was procured by a different administration, a different governor, a different procuring officer, you see to it that it is complete, Madam Speaker, so that citizens can enjoy the use of that particular project. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I want to appreciate the work that the Budget and Finance Committee have done, but I want to believe that we can do better, specifically to stall projects in our county. Many billions of shillings have been lost. And in fact, maybe this is something that, just as a final point, Madam Speaker, I wish to challenge colleagues, senators, to do. This is the 13th year, or rather the 12th year, Madam Speaker, of devolution in our county governments. Just do a sum total of all the projects from 2013, when devolution came into light in this country, Madam Speaker, that are stalled in our various counties, and how much has gone into that particular project up to date, and do a sum total. You will be shocked, Madam Speaker, that in each of our county, there's billions, if not hundreds of millions of money, Madam Speaker, that you can list. And a decision needs to be made. A special audit needs to be carried by our county assemblies, and a decision is made. What do you do? Are you going to leave those resources to go to waste and ruin as if you don't care? Or we make a decision. Either do whatever needs to be done, complete. If it doesn't make sense, Madam Speaker, then let it be known and closed in the books that this project has been declared that it can never take off, so that we know who entered into those contracts, what were the intention, and what will be done to them, Madam Speaker. This is a challenge that we must give ourselves as senators on stalled projects in our counties, so that it becomes a lesson. Anybody who procures in the future, Madam Speaker, any works or services, that it shall be to the benefit of the country. You know, counties, Madam Speaker, replicate what we have learned from national government. Yet, the reason why in 2010, many Kenyans voted in support of this constitution was because of the tenets of devolution, Madam Speaker, where they believe that they could not see proper management of resources at the national government, and said if we brought it closer, then there'd be better scrutiny. I hope we can still live by that particular dream, Madam Speaker, so that we ensure that our county governments work, because that's one of the gifts that we have given ourselves over the many progressive things that we have done as a country in the last 60 years, and we cannot afford it to go to waste. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I believe that even as we do the resolution on the reflection motion that is before this House, there must be a line about what each of us is supposed to do in our specific counties. A special audit separate, Madam Speaker, from the things that are being done here. At the national level, so that we complete on those projects and ensure that citizens get value for money. With those many remarks, Madam Speaker, I beg to support and appreciate the industry of this committee. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Senator Kisang.